let's get to it. Let's start running through some of the offensive names, starting with the quarterback. We're going to read this as if it's like an all-pro type team, but that's not what we're doing. We're not predicting the all-pro team. It's just, this is our first team player. This is our second team player. Just the construct of the roster will be similar in construction, but understand we're not predicting who's going to be the all-pro or tell you who has been the best. We're saying specifically according to our SumerSports data, then this is the guy at the top. And at the quarterback position, who is that?
Dak Prescott, Rain Dakota Prescott for the Dallas Cowboys. He has been far and away the most impactful quarterback according to our Sumer scores. And frankly, that's the reason why everyone loves watching the Cowboys and why that Sunday night game was a close 40-40 tie, because he has been making difficult throws. He has been completing them, and it has been leading to scores. And that is the reason why, on a second-by-second basis, he has been so good this year and kept the Cowboys competitive through 4 weeks.
He is number one on this list. Obviously, you have to take into consideration somebody's passing abilities and somebody's running abilities and how those measure out into impacting the game at large. How do we take that into consideration?
So with Dak in particular, he had a design run touchdown. Quarterbacks at this point in the season have not necessarily stabilized in terms of their run game, just because they have to take a ton of attempts to kind of get a sense of how well they will do. Dak in particular has not run a ton. He did have one really good play, but Dak has had to pass a ton because he is in these extremely competitive games. And what that means is his ability to perform at an extremely high level, which we've seen with Pro Bowl level performances and all pro level performances in week 2 and 4 respectively, means that he likely will probably continue doing this. And we've seen it over a big enough sample size where we're starting to feel good about it. And so will there be some regression? Perhaps. But right now he is far and away the best quarterback in the league, especially when it comes to passing the ball downfield in tough, competitive situations.
I want to be careful about that and ask you if that's what you actually mean, because I think if we zoom out, most people would say, and there are stats that would support, Josh Allen has been the best quarterback in the league. So when you say that Dak Prescott has been the best quarterback in the league, what are you saying?
So what I'm saying is that the actions that he has made, particularly when you take away things like turnover luck, have resulted. He has done the right thing. He has done his job more than any quarterback in the league. The reason why his expected points added in particular, which is typically something that you highlight for the MVP and is different than what we are highlighting in SumerScore, where we are grading the player every 10th of a second in context of everyone else on the field. The difference there is that Dak Prescott had a quality target of George Pickens that George Pickens did not catch. It pops up. It ends up being a back-breaking interception. It also means that on 4th down, game on the line, a pressure is let up against the Bears. 4th down, he just tries to make a play. He tries to get the ball in the area of wide receiver. It ends up in another pick. That is back-breaking in terms of EPA, but it's not necessarily in terms of Sumer score, which is evaluating the things that player is asked to do and how he performed those.
Number 2, second team, is Josh Allen. I don't think we need to go into that one in any more detail. There was another interesting name near the top of our list, though, that I do want to just put on everyone's radar, and that's Sam Darnold.
That's right. Sam Darnold on a per-snap basis has been immensely consistent. He has been able to keep the chains moving, and it has made Clint Kubiak's offense and a couple of these players that we're going to get to here shortly look very, very good. And especially in the face of the Minnesota Vikings really struggling at the quarterback position, this is really interesting. Last year, he was about 10th in our per-snap Sumer score, but he was about 20th in expected points added by the end of the season. That difference was very interesting. We're seeing everything come together for the Seattle Seahawks offense. The only thing is he has not been truly, tested outside of that 49ers game. They haven't asked him to do a ton. Clint Kubiak likes to keep his rush rate pretty high. And as a result, he just hasn't been tested to the level that Dak Prescott has been tested in all 4 games. And in particular, Josh Allen has been tested in the first game, and other players like Patrick Mahomes, who have played in these really, really competitive games, just hasn't been tested to that rate. And so as the season goes on, I'm really interested to see if he can keep that per snap performance relatively consistent especially given we haven't seen the super high level games that we've seen from some other star quarterbacks in the league this year.
At the running back position, we've got Kyren Williams on our first team and James Cook on our second team. Tell me more.
So very similarly, Kyren Williams has been far and away the best running back this year on a per snap basis. And so we said when he received this extension that he is a success rate running back. He does his job and does it well. That has been the case this year. It has led to the Rams looking very, very good on offense. Then we move to James Cook, another guy who was extended. He's been a little different, though he has had a similar per game performance. He has 8 off explosives. Teams are starting to pack the box against them. That being said, Joe Brady likes to use extra linemen. People like to defend against Josh Allen running the ball as well. But behind that line, he has been able to make the most of it. And it's really interesting, Lindsay. We talked deeply about these two players and whether the extensions were worth it. Up until now, SumerSports says that when it comes to running the ball, those two players have been very good.
It's interesting to look at our data tables, which you can find at SumerSports.com, and then just click on the data label at the top. James Cook is number 1 amongst running backs in total EPA with 8. Like the difference in EPA for that position versus some of the other positions. For instance, wide receiver total EPA leader there is Puka Nacua with 45. So just to like highlight that again, that's the conversation when we're having the conversation about running backs not mattering or, you know, being devalued. It's because of what the best person at this position is actually adding in terms of expected points. But anyway, okay, so those two guys obviously having good seasons. Puka Nacua, as already mentioned, is clearly on this list, having an all-world season. Like this guy, we said before the season that he was it, and he has made us look very good, Sam.
Right. Considering that in fantasy drafts, his ADP was between 8 and 12.
And people were freaked out because of Stafford's injury. Like, I got to bump him down. It's wild.
The holy trinity for me of wide receiver stats, which are in themselves are the cleanest, nicest stats at volume of any statistic in football, period, which is an extremely small sample game and blah, 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 blah. It's tough to take stats at their face value. You can take at face value that Puka Nacua is good. The dude has dominated in target share for the past 3 years, regardless of who the quarterback is. The guy has dominating yards per route run. Currently, he's like 2 yards ahead of the 5th ranked player. And he has dominated in SumerScore, which is, again, looking at exactly what he's doing. He's running fantastic routes. He's doing extremely well after the catch. Like, the guy is an absolute monster. And he's basically performing thus far in the first 3 years of his career as an all-pro every single game. Like, if you're just a quality starter for every game in this league, you're probably going to be a top 5, top 10 paid player. Puka Nacua is like an all-pro every game and has been so this year. He was last year when he was healthy. The only thing that can hold him back at this point is health. I don't even think Stafford going down would hold him back at this point.
I mean, it's tough to predict that would be the case, right? Though obviously the two of them working in tandem is best case scenario for both of them. Just to go back to that point, I don't want that point to be glazed over here. The yards per route run, his number in our data tables, 4.23. That's insane. If you just zoom out and think about what that's actually saying, that means every time he runs a route, he's on average providing you 4 yards. That's wild. And number 2 on that list is 2.44. Like literally number 2 drops by almost 2 full yards, and that's Zay Flowers.
Basically, it means that if Puka Nacua is on the field and he plays for the Philadelphia Eagles and he runs a route on first down and a route on second down and they push, they could do that every play and score. Like that is how at the level that he is operating at right now. It's virtually absurd. Like through 3 downs, you're going to get a first down if Puka Nacua is on the field.
Speaking of the Eagles, I'm scrolling down the list to find their wide receivers, and their top wide receiver is Devontae Smith with 135. So
not ideal.
More about the Eagles to come as one of the two remaining teams that have yet to lose a game. Want to talk about the other wide receivers first, amon-ra St. Brown and Ricky Pearsall.
Amon-Ra St. Brown has kept it up. He's the leader of that Lions team. But Ricky Pearsall is a really interesting one because we think of the year-by-year progression of this 49ers team. And we started out with it being Kittle and Debo. And then, Kittle would have some injuries. All of a sudden, Ayuk was the guy. And now we have kind of settled in through 4 weeks in Ricky Pearsall being the guy. There's a couple interesting part and parcels about this. Like in terms of SumerScore, he has done excellent, but there have been a lot of big plays. You look at yards per route run, he's still pretty good as well when you're just checking these holy trinity things all together. I'd make the argument, Lindsay, that he's not being used enough. I think his target share should go up as the weeks continue, and thus the kind of variance.
Oh, it's so low.
Right.
His target share is 19.
Exactly. So take our SumerScore metric of being really high as kind of the canary in the coal mine, that this player on a per game basis has been very good, on a per snap basis has been very good, and he probably should be fed a little bit more by Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers offense.
Yeah, targets per route run is down the list. Yeah, those are really good points. This is why these types of data exercises are fun for nerds like us, because you can find information that the team is no doubt looking for and might pivot to based on their findings as well. I want to go through the second team wide receivers because I think there's some very interesting names on this list. Jackson Smith-Njigba, I don't think anyone would have blinked had his name been on the first team. He's having an incredible season, taking on the target share, speaking of target share, off the charts there in Seattle, but has just been doing a really bang up job for them. By the way, I want to note the type of wide receiver that we're seeing a lot on this list. Look at this, like in terms of Puka and amon-ra and Jackson Smith-Njigba, like these guys that do the inside out thing and aren't just your traditional, usually, historically your wide receiver one is a guy who primarily lines up on the outside. And we're seeing guys that are a little bit more versatile in terms of where they start the play, having a ton of success.
Right. There's basically only one quote X receiver here, and that's George Pickens. And George Pickens is the one with the most question marks who is on here. In terms of SumerScore, the reason why he is doing well is because he makes really big plays for Dak Prescott.
Certainly did in week 4.
Oh, 100%. He makes the big, difficult catches that no one else would make. And again, like we are scoring these players based off what they are doing in history. So he makes catches that are very difficult to make historically. He makes catches in big positions. And when it comes down to it, Dak has been targeting him when he needs a big play. And he has been converting those at an extremely high rate. You look at his yards per route run, you look at his target share, they're way down the list. He is deeply down there. So there is a question of, can he keep this up? But when CeeDee Lamb comes back, he's not going to be asked to do the heavy lifting of this team. I think he has settled in a contract year into that T. Higgins role that they envisioned for him, that the Cowboys envisioned when they traded for him. And I think that's something that can launch you up into that top tier of payment and of the top tier of SumerScores as well when you are operating at that level.
Let me ask you this, because the thing about him has always been that he has this extreme athletic talent and can make these wow plays, but he's a little bit inconsistent in terms of like the route running and some of those things that you actually really kind of desperately need out of your wide receiver one. Consistency is so important at that position. Has he improved in that area?
I think that is yet to be said. On a per game basis, which is what we're looking at here, that is the reason why he is on the second team and not on the first team, because the plays that he makes are so big and so impactful that when you just look on a per snap basis, he's actually quite high. And so I think you have to iron the consistency out. You can't have the big boom games if he wants to be a true wide receiver one. Now, if he wants to be a 1B or 2, that is excellent for the Cowboys offense. CD has been doing very well. Obviously struggled with injury over kind of the last game and a half. And when he comes back, if he's the certified wide receiver one and you can harness that boomer bust energy, on a kind of game by game basis. It's very valuable for the Cowboys. I don't know if we've seen just quite the game by game consistency from him yet, though.
And then Emeka Egbuka.
Who is just, slotted into Baker Mayfield's guy.
I wish that I'd just stuck with my gut around draft time. I loved Emeka Egbuka. He was one of my favorite wide receivers in the draft. And then he went to Tampa Bay. And from a fantasy projection standpoint, I was like, nah, not this year. And I still have him on a couple of teams, thank God. But I was thinking that he would just kind of get clogged up with all the other wide receivers there, and that it might take a little bit longer for us to see what we have seen so far. Now, obviously, injuries happened that have really expedited, I think, his progress in terms of the sheer production that we're seeing out of him, but he has been just a revelation.
Right. And talk about I meets the AI. When you go into these scores and look at the history and what is informing them, Baker Mayfield went on the stand and was asked, hey, which of these plays were you more impressed by? So you can imagine when people are saying that just by watching the game live, what the AI, which is comparing all of these past catches and past routes, what they think about Egbuka. And what basically has shown is that he is a go-to receiver in this league. And he can certainly be an excellent guy who can kind of maintain a level of target share in this league. The question really is he's been in a perfect situation for stats that kind of rack up like SumerScore does and other things on a per game basis, because they played 4 really tough games that they had to utilize him a ton in. And so I'm going to be interested to see if he can be more of the Justin Jefferson type, who just narrowly missed this list, of a guy who can help you get ahead of a team when people have to bear down and, first or second or third drive, or really the whole game plan is about you. I'm really interested to see if, as defenses adjust, he can continue to be that guy.
Yeah. And also what the Bucs can be as their season goes on, and they're not flip-flopping Mike Evans or Chris Godwin being in the lineup. I mean, it's possible that continues, that one guy comes back and one guy goes out. But if they get all 3 of these guys on the field, the things that they can do with Bucky Irving, very much like their chances. They're in Tampa Bay this year. Let's go to the offensive line and start with the tackle position, a position that will not be represented by the Chargers anymore.
Very sad.
It's so
we
sad.
talked about it. We talked about it last week, Lindsay.
I know.
And
I jinxed them. I did it.
It didn't happen exact. I mean, it happened tragically. We were under the impression that it would just be
yes.
Oh, it doesn't come together and blah, blah, blah. I didn't expect it to be like literally the wheels come off. They have no more offensive linemen. Herbert is getting smoked, and then it all kind of comes apart. So we'll see how that develops. But
Oh, and it was so obvious too. Even if you didn't watch the game and you just looked at numbers, this was a perfect example of the numbers telling you the story, because his time to throw went way down. You could see he didn't have time to get the ball out. The time to throw drops. The average depth of target dropped. And I think at the very end, he took some shots downfield that maybe averaged it out a little bit more. But there was a chunk of the game where you're it's all right there at the line of scrimmage. And so we see the ways that not having your 2 of the best tackles in the league can affect your football team. Probably didn't even need to, see those ways. That kind of goes without saying. But Laramie Tunsil and Colton Miller having good seasons there.
So with offensive linemen, it's fun because SumerScore is peeling back kind of the onion. It's very difficult to evaluate these players. It's very results driven, and SumerScore gives us a kind of peek into the window of perhaps what we need to see. And especially when you get down to our frame level or play level SumerScores, you can kind of see it happen on a play-by-play basis. Laramie Tunsil has been the SumerScore god for 2 or 3 years now. You look across the entire sample that we have, and Laramie Tunsil is excellent in pass blocking SumerScore and run blocking SumerScore, and he's consistently good at those 2 things. That's why it was such a shock when the Texans let him go. So you move him into Washington, and you're trying to find the and so. Because I can tell you, Lindsay, that an offensive lineman is good, and you can watch him, and on a lot of the plays, maybe he's not exactly the point of attack. Maybe he's blocking someone who's not all that good. Maybe the person's dropping off, and there's a bunch of things. The and so here is that Jaden Daniels has gone down, and the offense has still performed pretty well with Marcus Mariota, who we have seen struggle with pressure before. Moreover, we've seen Cliff Kingsbury be able to maintain a level of running competence despite basically starting someone who we really love, Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt, but a seventh round rookie running back, which just on average is not that great. They've been able to keep their offense moving with Laramie Tunsil. And so moving on to Colton Miller at the left tackle position, who unfortunately I think got a little banged up in the past game, that offense has kind of struggled a bit, but his Sumer scores were still good. And then we see Ashton Genty be able to break it off and really start to dominate at the beginning of last game. And I think when you follow these kind of and so's, which we'll do as we discuss these offensive linemen, these are two guys where it really tracks. They've done a good job protecting and they've done a good job run blocking. And when you mix both of those things, particularly at the premium position of the left tackle, it means so much to a team. And it honestly is a pretty good projection of how these offenses will continue on.
I want to call out another name here, and that's Penei Sewell, and talk about how he fits into this conversation.
Right. We've mentioned some of these players who in any given role are just so far ahead of the other players. We mentioned Kyron Williams being like that in terms of a success per game and stuff like that. Penei Sewell is one of those players. He's a one-of-one run blocker. And frankly, he's a one-of-one run blocker across our sample. He is several points ahead of any other player in run blocking. And that is because you can deploy him in radically different scenarios than basically anyone else in the league. And in the past 2 weeks, we've basically seen Detroit do that. We saw them really just push around the Baltimore Ravens behind Penei Sewell. We saw the guards do well as well, but they run very strange actions. That's kind of the and so here is you're able to do so much in the run game when Penei Sewell is your right tackle, and he's not too shabby in the pass game either, that it just completely changes the face of an offense because of what you can do with him, and he becomes a true weapon for your team.
So all of those Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery big plays, we tip our cap to Penei Sewell, who deserves a degree of credit for that. What about the guard position? Who stands out here?
So this is an interesting one because we kind of start to see different utilizations, and we'll discuss this a little bit at the linebacker position as well, but you may have your guard who pulls a little bit more, and you may have your guard who blocks a little bit more. This year, we're seeing some guys who have been really good at both. And so you look at Isaac Seumalo at Pittsburgh, and he's been a core part of the reason why this team has been able to kind of keep the chains moving despite having a very low ADOT, a very low time to throw, and a running back room that, got rid of Najee Harris, drafted Caleb Johnson, who basically has not played at all. And they've been able to be variably effective, particularly against a team last week like the Minnesota Vikings, which gives you a lot of different looks. And I think Seumalo has been a major part of that. You look at Chris Lindstrom, and also like honorable mention here, Matthew Bergeron and Ryan Neuzel from the Atlanta Falcons. Those guys have been able to keep that moving despite a little bit of adversity against the Carolina Panthers, and they have kind of kept their running game quite sound. And so I think those players have done a very good job of kind of, making a potentially tough scenario with it. In one case, a very old a very old quarterback. And in another case, a very young quarterback, a sound space for success, in particular at the guard position.
On Winu, also, second team at the right guard position after Chris Lindstrom, who is a name that we talk about every year at this spot.
So Michael Onwenu, and also on the second team here at the tackle position, Morgan Moses, are both from New England. And Lindsay, if I would have told you preseason that we'd have two guys performing really well on the New England offensive line, you probably wouldn't have believed it. The and so here is they right now have the 4th ranked passing offense.
Wild.
It's nuts. And so speaking about the and so for a lot of these guys, building up a great environment for a rookie quarterback or a young quarterback, we are seeing that happen in New England. Mike Vrabel is instituting it with the two veterans, Michael Onwenu, who has been there for a while, Morgan Moses, who they brought in from the Jets, who had a pretty good year with the Jets. They just didn't necessarily want to pay him, wanted to go young at the position. That makes all the difference. And now we're starting to see that kind of payoff through 4 games.
Yeah, and a 2-2 record after 4 in a division where it's starting to look like it's Buffalo at the top and then 2 teams that you can maybe beat up on a little bit. So New England will be an interesting one to follow for the rest of the season as they continue to try and just add a little bit more and more every single week. From a center standpoint, let's talk about the centers here.
So Tyler Linderbaum has been someone who we have discussed year over year as someone who can really contribute. This year is no different. He has been excellent in our pass blocking SumerScore and in our run blocking SumerScore. And it's kind of the same for our second team member, Eric McCoy. The interesting thing is I think these two players are going to be leaned on extremely heavily for different reasons. I think Tyler Linderbaum is on a team who is expecting to compete and is kind of underachieved, but how many times have we said this about the Ravens early season? I think they're going to lean on him, particularly pulling him at the center position and utilizing his knowledge in the pass blocking to continue and try to get back. I think they have a lot of competitive games coming down the pipe for them. I think they're going to really lean on Linderbaum. McCoy, on the other end, is on a team that has no wins and a young quarterback and a team that they're trying to put together right now. McCoy is another one of these SumerScore all-stars. You put him in the same category as you put Josh Allen or Puka Nacua or Laramie Tunsil. He excels both at pass blocking and at run blocking, and he is calling the shots for that Saints offense. If we continue to see growth from guys like Kendre Miller or Spencer Rattler, I think a lot of it can go on Eric McCoy's head, and I think SumerScore is kind of the beacon of that right now.
Going back to Linderbaum for a second and the Ravens offense, a stat that I found today that just knocked my socks off. Lamar Jackson has the highest sack rate in the NFL, 12.6%.
It's very interesting. And just anecdotally, you watch the film and I wonder how much you can pin that on the offensive line, really, because we did see the Lions have success at running the ball, but we've also seen Lamar hold the ball in a way that he always has been able to, but not be able to have that second gear. Now, they have played Myles Garrett, and they have played Aiden Hutchinson, and they have played Chris Jones, and they have played
That's insane, by the way.
Greg
the
Greg Rousseau
wildest
and
schedule.
Yes. And it's going to keep coming. I think one of the secrets of this season is that the NFC East, the AFC North, and the NFC North all play each other. And there's a real chance if we all of a sudden start seeing the Giants win, as we saw, that there's like 8 to 12 teams that are all playoff viable there. And so I think in particular, like discussing Linderbaum or discussing Lamar Jackson, that we may see some of these teams be like 10-7 or 11-6, where in past years they would have been 13-4 or 14-3 due to the schedule. The Packers, the Lions, the Ravens, the Steelers, et cetera, and they may just crack teams in the playoffs because their schedule was so difficult. And so I'm keeping a close eye on that, particularly as it pertains to the Ravens.
Yes. The divisions, I mean, the NFC North was one that we all saw coming in terms of being a really tough division, has played out that way. The NFC West is 3 teams that are 3-1 and then Arizona at 2-2 in last place. It's just wild. And then going back to the AFC North, which you just brought up, Pittsburgh sitting on top at 3-1 in like a perfect storm. In a positive way of things going their way, right? Like in terms of like, we knew that Cleveland probably wasn't going to win a ton of games, even if their defense was all world, which it has turned out to be very, very good. But you've got Baltimore 1-3 following a very tough early season schedule. And now Lamar banged up. And what does that mean about them moving forward? And then you've got Cincy in the 2-hole at 2-2, just getting like outscored by so many points. Their scoring differential is insane. I would not have predicted that division was going to shape up the way that it has so far.
I think that injuries have kind of hit that a lot.
Absolutely.
But
yes. But that's what I mean about the perfect storm for Pittsburgh, because you look at this team that I still kind of see as a slightly above 500 team. Like,
100, yeah, I totally agree.
I don't think that they are a team that, despite the fact that they're 3-1, is as good as their record suggests that they are. I know people are going to be like, you're a hater for that, but that's what this whole exercise is, right? Is to like dig a little bit deeper than what the record actually shows you. And then, but then I don't know that at the end of the year, I'm going to be proven correct because of some weird twists of fate that I think are going to sort of downgrade their level of competition. Is that fair to say?
The Mike Tomlin voodoo definitely is there. You look at some of the decisions that they made on fourth down. It didn't necessarily make a ton of sense, but they end up winning against the Vikings because they are able to get pressure on Carson Wentz, and they make some timely turnovers as well. You think of the first game, a ball bounces, all of a sudden DK makes a catch. You think of the game against the Vikings, there's an 80-yard breakaway play from DK, and things are spinning their way. But how many years in a row can we see things spin their way, Lindsay? I mean, we've seen it across 5 quarterbacks at this point. We've seen it regardless of really who's playing at all. It's quite magical at this point. I just kind of believe in it as a spirit now.
I'm on the edge. I could be persuaded at this point. Like, I don't know what's going on other than that. Did we forget about tight ends?
We did, Lindsay, and I'm so glad we're coming back to this because I think a lot of the stuff you've been talking about is going to be proven right.
What stuff that I've been talking about? The rookies being good right away?
The rookies being good right away. And moreover, Tyler Warren has been an absolute beast. He is our first team on our progress report. He has been excellent both in the passing game in terms of SumerScore, by far the best in terms of the passing game, in terms of pass receiving. But the hardest thing for a rookie to do, and we discussed this over and over again with Thomas and with other folks, that it's so hard to adjust to run blocking for tight ends. And he has also been an absolutely dominant player in the run block when it comes to this run offense of the Colts that has been absolutely exemplary. And so what we're seeing from Tyler Warren is a full circle rookie kind of takeover in terms of this tight end position. He's a certified first team candidate right now. He's a certified all pro candidate as it stands. And it's going to be really interesting to see how defenses evolve with him because he is doing it on both sides of what he's being asked to do.
And the second team tight end is a guy who I thought back when he was a rookie might have a bigger role than he did. Took a minute to get going, and now he is massive. Trey McBride.
Yeah, it's Trey McBride for a slightly different reason. We're not seeing like great run blocking production from Trey McBride, but that's because he's not asked to do that because he is legitimately the number one target for this Cardinals offense. Kyler Murray goes to him at a rate higher than pretty much any quarterback does for tight ends. He's really the only certified number one target this year, given kind of the decline of Travis Kelce, decline of Mark Andrews to a certain degree. Trey McBride is a true number one target, and he's doing it at an excellent efficiency, both in terms of SumerScore per game in the pass reception and also in terms of yards per route run. So he kind of has the holy trinity of wide receiving going on right now, but he's doing it from the tight end position, and that's why he's second team.